All right, guys, I already told you when it comes to this impeachment thing, like I'm checked out. I really don't care. But I have been keeping up with what has been happening just loosely in terms of how the arguments are going, how things are swaying. Obviously, I don't think anybody's votes or opinions is being changed with this, maybe except the Mitt Romneys, the Lisa Murkowski's, I don't know, maybe even Mitch, who knows, right? Those people, maybe their opinions may be swung. Again, I just think it's a waste of time. But when this thing began, it seemed like the Trump legal team, at least from what I was hearing, was doing a pretty piss poor job, right? His legal team is led by David Schoen and Bruce Castor. And the report saw that President Trump was not happy with them. Okay, he was very frustrated with their defense. So apparently, come today, Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, and some other senators decided to give the Trump legal team a pick-me-up. They decided to say, listen, we're going to help these guys out. These guys need some help, right? And apparently, they bought their A game today because from everything I've been hearing, I've been reading that the Trump legal team put in that work. And I happened to catch this amazing compilation that I think really drives home how silly this impeachment is and the precedent that will be set, which I think is the most important part of this whole thing, that the Democrats are overplaying their hand on if the president is actually convicted in the Senate. Because for all intents and purposes, guys, the Democrats are just as guilty for the mess that happens on their side as President Trump is in terms of what happens on, the conservative side. The thing is that they just don't want to admit that, right? So if they ended up convicting Trump, some people on the Democrat side got to lose some seats. Okay, that's how the game goes. So take a look at this compilation that they played today at the Senate trial that I think really just drives home the point.
It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
They're not going to let up, and they should not.
You claim that it's wrong to object to the certification of election results. You, along with your allies in the media, attempted to cancel and censor members of this chamber who voiced concerns and objected to certification. Manager Raskin, you'd been in Congress only 3 days when you objected in 2017. It's one of the first things you did when you got here.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified.
Is the objection in writing and signed not only by the member of the House of Representatives, but also by a senator?
It is in writing, Mr. President.
Is it signed by a senator?
Not as of yet, Mr. President.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral votes were not...
There's no debate.
And I object to a certificate from the state of North Carolina based on violations of the
There is no debate. There's no debate in the joint session.
I object because people are horrified by the overwhelming evidence.
Section 18, Title 3 of the United States Code prohibits debate.
I object.
Objected to the counting of electoral votes of the state of Ohio.
I object to the certificate from the state of Alabama. The electors were not lawfully certified.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina because of the massive voter suppression and the closing of polling booths.
There's no debate. There's no debate.
16
There's
to 1.
No debate.
And the massive voter suppression that occurred to African Americans.
The gentleman will suspend.
I have an objection to the electoral votes.
The objection is in writing, and I don't care that it is not signed by a member of the Senate.
I do not wish to debate. I wish to ask, is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter?
There's no debate.
The objection is signed by a member of the House, but not yet by a member of the Senate.
Well, it is over.
And when the House managers realized that the president's actual words could not have incited the riot, as you alleged in your article of impeachment, you attempted to pivot. You said that raising the issue of election security and casting doubt on the propriety of our elections was dangerous. One of the House managers, Mr. Cicilline, told you that this is not about the words Mr. Trump used in isolation. Rather, it is about...
Yeah. So that to me is perfect. Now, obviously, there's more to that video, especially the beginning where they're showing things that the Democrats have said. And a lot of people say, well, this is whataboutism. No, it's not about whataboutism, right? What it is that it's proving the point that what President Trump said at the time was political speech. It's typical political speech, right? And again, guys, I just want to make it clear. I don't endorse any violence. I condemn violence on both sides. I am for strictly peace, right? Peace over everything. I just have to make that disclaimer here because I don't want anybody to get it twisted who may, watch this video. But essentially the problem is that they're trying to say what Trump said was inflammatory rhetoric when, again, in politics, politicians use inflammatory rhetoric all the time. The Democrats use inflammatory rhetoric all summer long. And again, to me, this is about precedent. If the Democrats want to go down this road about, the use of inflammatory rhetoric, when they lose the Senate and the House, which will happen again at some point, they might be betting on the GOP being destroyed forever. But if they lose that bet, okay, and they lose the House and the Senate and they want to go ahead with this conviction of President Trump, the precedent that is going to set is going to bite them in the butt. And that's what it's about, right? That's ultimately what it's about, right? You're setting a precedent here that politicians can't use any rhetoric that may be defined as inflammatory. Okay, I mean, that's a very, very, very sticky precedent because, I mean, a lot of these politicians do rely on certain rhetoric in order to get votes, right? In order to get people on their side. So, this is a very, very, very subjective thing. And matter of fact, I mean, let's take a look at a video of AOC using rhetoric that some people could define as inflammatory. Okay, let's check it out.
If you're trying to call for the end of unrest, but you don't believe healthcare is a human right, if you're afraid to say Black Lives Matter, if you're too scared to call out police brutality, then you aren't asking for an end of unrest. You are asking for injustice to continue and for your people to continue to endure the violence of poverty, the violence of a lack of housing access, the violence of police brutality, and not say a damn thing. That's what you're asking for. So if you're out here calling for the end of unrest, then you better be calling for healthcare as a human right. You better be calling for accountability in our policing. You better be supporting community review boards. You better be supporting, the end of housing discrimination. You better be standing up to for-profit real estate developers that are intimidating people and trying to evict them from their homes. That's what you better be calling for. Because if you don't call for those things and you're asking for the end of unrest, all you're asking for is the continuation of quiet oppression. So if you want the end of unrest, then you should be asking for measures that actually liberate people in their lives from the oppression of economic and social inequity.
You heard that, right? You heard that. Basically what she's saying is that if you want to stop the violence in the streets, then you better go along with the policies that I want. That's what she's saying in a nutshell. Now, again, she gets away with this and people think that this is right because she's standing up for something that people think is, moral, or they think it's the right thing to do. And it's like, again, guys, it's completely, this stuff is subjective, right? AOC thinks that she can say this and that it's okay because she's pushing for policies that she think are right and morally just. But see, they don't think that the issues that people have on the right, they don't think those issues are legitimate. And that's where the disconnect is coming from. What she just said is essentially, if you don't give us health care, if you don't stand up for this, if you don't stand up for that, I'm not going to speak out against it. Matter of fact, it's going to keep continuing. So basically what she's saying is that I endorse violence as long as you guys don't do what I want. That's what she's saying, which to me makes it so anybody that gets hurt, anybody that loses their life, anybody that loses their business, anybody that loses their livelihood because of left-wing protests and violence, she is responsible for. She is culpable for. Because like the left says, silence is violence. You're not speaking up against it. So that means you're for it. Because you know who's getting hurt. It's not the politicians. that are making the decisions, they're not the people that's getting affected by this. Not you, AOC. The people that are being affected by this are those that actually live in the neighborhoods. Those businesses and business owners who are having their stores looted. Okay, those are people that has to suffer because you, who have a platform, a huge platform, you have a huge influence on people, are not calling an end to the violence because you believe that your cause is justified. And that's why I try to say, guys, it's two sides of the same coin. It's two sides of the same coin. And again, this type of stuff, if they try to convict the president, I would say this is something that maybe AOC should lose her seat for saying. I'm serious. I mean, there's a good argument to be made for that. How far do you want to take this? Okay, that's what it comes down to. And the Democrats, I don't think they want to play this game. I really don't. Also, on top of that, furthermore in the video, when they talked about the objecting to votes, that also was a great defense for Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz, because everybody's acting like it was a sin for Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz to object to the votes. And it's like, no, this is what they do all the time. The only reason this mattered, right? The only reason this one was different was because all eyes was on this one. Okay, but this is stuff that happens all the time. This is par for the course. The argument is essentially that nothing that was said by President Trump or done by Josh Hawley or Ted Cruz was outside of the normal course of politics. This is what politicians do. They do it all the time. They're trying to act like Trump is doing something new. That's not how this works. So I think it was amazing. And how I know it was good for sure is that one of the impeachment managers on Democrat side that are trying to make the case against Trump, Stacey Plackett, who's a delegate from the Virgin Islands, I think, she had to pull the race card because she got triggered by that video. And this is how you know the Trump team blew it out the water. Let's take a listen.
I'll briefly say that defense counsels put a lot of videos out in their defense, playing clip after clip of Black women talking about fighting for a cause or an issue or a policy. It was not lost on me as so many of them were people of color and women, Black women like myself, who are sick and tired of being sick and tired for our children, your children, our children. This summer, things happened that were violent, but there were also things that gave some of us Black women great comfort. Seeing Amish people from Pennsylvania standing up with us, members of Congress fighting up with us. And so I thought we were past that. I think maybe we're not.
Jesus Christ. How pathetic is that, guys? She just straight up pulled a race card. She was like, damn, that was good. This was offensive to Black women. This is how you know that the Trump legal team came in and wreaked havoc today. Because you got the Democrats pulling the race card, trying to say it's offensive to Black women, and that, oh, that showed a lot of Black women fighting for a cause. Listen, the problem with this whole thing is the fact that one side thinks that their cause is legit and it justifies their violence. And that's the problem that the Democrats fail to see. They don't see the legitimacy of the other side, right? Because they just think that everything that Trump supporters believe is a conspiracy and that it's not true. So therefore, they just dismiss it, right? And what they don't understand is that them just casually dismissing those concerns of those on the right is part of the reason why we're at this place that we're at right now. Okay? At the end of the day, you have to realize, regardless of how you feel, there's a certain group of people in this country that feel a certain way about how things happen. And you have to acknowledge that. And once you acknowledge that and you understand, okay, this is how they feel, you're going to have a better chance of rectifying the situation. Right? But see, no. What they do is they only legitimize their cause. Their cause is the only cause that's legitimate. And don't criticize their cause, because if you criticize their cause, then you coming against Black women. And again, I'm a Black man. I have nothing against Black women. I love Black women. I absolutely love Black women. But don't sit here and act like you can't be criticized just because you're a woman and you're black. Everybody's open for criticism, regardless of your race or your gender or your sex. And the fact they have to use that just shows how effective that it was. And it's just funny because it seems like that's where we're headed, where a certain group of people just can't get criticism because they have a certain skin color or they're a certain gender. Oh, therefore you can't criticize them. And if you do criticize them, then you're going to be accused of being a racist or a sexist. And nothing that the Trump legal team showed, it was just Democrats that just happened to be, some of them just happened to be black. So a lot of them was white. A lot of them was white folks. But she just got to point out, oh, there was black women in that. You must be trying to say something about black women. We've been so hurt and so this, that, and the other. And I'm not saying that, you know, you don't feel that way. But you got to understand, that's what you said. You egged on the violence. You supported it. You're going to get called out for it. The only thing is you think it was justified. So therefore you think you're above criticism. And that's not true. That's not true. Okay? So, hey, we'll see how it goes. I expect the president to be acquitted. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.